Hello. So for the rapid update current trends in poisoning, May 2025, we are going to be discussing methanol poisoning and contamination. And we have Professor James Coulson, who's going to talk to us a bit more in detail.
So methanol is an industrial chemical that belongs to a group of chemicals known as the toxic alcohols. Like ethanol alcohol, if consumed, they will cause features of alcohol intoxication. And because of that, methanol is sometimes used as an adulterant or a contaminant in illicitly produced alcohols. And around the world over the last few decades, there have been several outbreaks of poisoning in countries such as India, North Africa, and occasionally in Europe. In 2012, there was an outbreak in the Czech Republic, and we have had smaller outbreaks in other countries, including here in the UK. People listening will be aware of the outbreak that occurred at the end of last year in Laos. Now, this outbreak was slightly unusual in that amongst the victims were a number of tourists from overseas, typically from Europe, Australasia, and the United States. And that was somewhat unusual when it came to the epidemiology of methanol poisoning. Now, methanol is a problem because, in addition to the methanol causing features of intoxication, it's metabolized to, first of all, formaldehyde, but then to formate, also known as formic acid. And this produces quite a marked metabolic acidosis because humans and other primates aren't capable of metabolizing formate to something less toxic. And this is because we lack reserves of folate or folic acid to be able to do this successfully compared with other animals. And unfortunately, in addition to causing a potentially life-threatening metabolic acidosis, it's also toxic to parts of the CNS, particularly the retina, where it can cause blindness. And in severe cases, kidney failure can occur. And if kidney failure occurs, that's typically a poor prognostic sign. Two important initiatives are ongoing at the moment. The first has been undertaken by the medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, who have launched an educational initiative to train healthcare professionals in the diagnosis and management of toxic alcohol poisoning, particularly methanol poisoning. Our colleagues in the NPIS at the University of Edinburgh have been engaged in research funded by the UK National Institute of Health Research for the development and for the testing of a point of care diagnostic tool for methanol poisoning. Now, this point of care tool was originally developed by one of our toxicology colleagues, Professor Nut Hovda from the University of Oslo. And some of our audience will be familiar with Professor Hovda's work, and he's often a speaker at EPACT. But he developed a method of being able to detect formate, the toxic metabolite of methanol, in patients in a near patient setting. You see, the normal way of diagnosing toxic alcohol poisoning is to undertake gas chromatography, which can detect the parent compound, be that methanol or something like antifreeze, ethylene glycol. The problem with this method is it's quite time consuming and it involves some rather expensive kit and needs some well-trained scientists and technicians to be able to run that kit. So it's not ideal in either a mass casualty situation or in a relatively resource poor setting. So Professor Hovda and colleagues were interested in using an enzymatic system which could be present on a diagnostic strip. Now, originally, people have studied the use of formate dehydrogenase, which is an enzyme which will metabolize formate. However, this enzyme isn't stable under temperatures, under field conditions. So Professor Hovda's group looked at using formate oxidase as an enzyme, since that enzyme is much more temperature stable, so it's much more robust and can be used in the field. And they were able to develop an assay and presented a case report of the first successful use of that assay back in April 2021. And the work that the University of Edinburgh are looking into is to see how effective this technology is going to be in the real world environment. So I'm looking forward to receiving the results of those trials in the next few years.
And just finally, to remind everyone that we have a e-learning module on TalkSpace relating to methanol poisoning, and it's available for all users who have an individual TalkSpace account. So you can sign up via the link or use the QR code as well.